Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're just going to be waiting another 2 more minutes for some other contacts to join us. So just bear with us for another 1 to 2 more minutes. Okay, so hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We will like to welcome you to this webinar. We want to share with you, all the ways to innovatively improve your Microsoft Teams adoption and governance using Power Software. So Prometix is a Microsoft Gold partner, and our alliance represents the highest level of expertise within the Microsoft technologies realm. It allows us to better support our customers across the Microsoft portfolio products and SharePoint. Enclosed, you'll find a deployment guide and an overview on Power Teams that you can review a bit later on. So let's head over to the agenda for today. We will be discussing governance, adoption, and its importance. So I have my colleagues and our partners, Power Software, joining us here. I'm sure they're excited to share the ways to improve the collaboration and amplify the productivity throughout your organization and teams. I'm Chantel and I work with Prometix, so my responsibility is to make sure that all of our clients are happy and prosperous. So I'm a client success manager. So basically, what is our expertise? We have a strong focus on delivering, innovative solutions, covering areas not limited to the digital workplace, data analytics, smart solutions, modern power apps, and application support. We'll be having our Microsoft and SharePoint subject matter expert, Leslie, Anjan, joining us. So Leslie would like to take us on a journey of discovering this complex jungle of modern workplace technologies. Who'll help us, understand our needs for effective change and challenging, our assumptions. So let us show you, the right tools that can really take your teams to the next level of productivity. Leslie will be covering governance and its importance within the field, followed by a demo from Power Teams APAC business manager, Pierre Delage. So just a little housekeeping rules before we do get started. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box and we'll go through the questions during the Q&A session towards the end of the webinar. So with further ado, I would like to pass you on to Leslie.
I'm Leslie Anjan, and I'm from Prometix. I have experience in delivering Microsoft Teams and delivered successful projects using SharePoint, Teams, and all the Microsoft stack. I'm the principal consultant at Prometix, and I have today I'm going to talk about primarily on Teams and how Teams can help you with obviously we are using Teams for collaboration and obviously for meetings and calls, but I'm also thinking how we can structure this and give you a better governance on this so that we can get a better outcome going forward. So in terms of the evolution of digital workplace, we've come to a point where things have moved very quickly, especially during the pandemic time. And people have started using a lot of things in terms of collaboration. So the companies are now moving into cloud space, and that's where the evolution has come to. So it reduces the cost of running the tools, It's also the place for them to manage things, and also the huge reduction of cost, and also having the personnel there to manage those infrastructure has helped a lot in moving uh, the actual platform into cloud, and this has been a very good digital evolution. In terms of tools, and I'm mainly focusing on the Microsoft side of things. There have been considerable investment that have been made, and especially in the Microsoft 365, touching based on SharePoint and Teams, which are the heart and soul of the Microsoft collaboration platform. This has also increased working collaboration between people, and also helped with increase the user adoption. And also what I have been hearing lots is that the digital transformation that has accelerated. In the older days, it probably takes a lot longer to implement systems. You got to do a lot of training. There's a kind of a user adoption. But these days, obviously, there needs to be some change management that needs to kick in. But the user adoption and all that kicks in very quickly due to the nature of the tools that have been built. In terms of understanding the governance on the field, the current reality is that obviously the tool has brought forward a lot of good things and lot to be look at. But at the end, there's also some sort of a governance that needs to be in place. And there is always what I call a fist fight between the business and the IT, which goes beyond at certain points that either it's towards the IT side of things or it's either business side of things, and I haven't seen a lot into the middle layer. And this has been the question that asked me by lots of customers, that where is this heading and how do we control these things, and do we have any tool to do that? Um, I'll so in terms of governance, how is this essential is um, user experience is a key to it, right? Obviously the business needs to work with the common tools that they have. They need to get the best out of the digital workspace, and also they want to accelerate their work that they do. They need to do their day-to-day activities without any issues, right? But there's always the other thing that IT needs to do, is to ensure that the tool brings governance in place, and it is a lot smarter, and also the investments are met, and it is sustainable, right? Then comes a question where should organization give total freedom to end users to get best experience? Is that a question that needs to be answered? If we give that, then what's going to happen with the governance? Should IT restrict the use of creation to avoid dealing with security and information management issues? And this has been the key in lots of organizations. How do we then manage the information security side of things? And also, there's always a question asked: do the employees, if we empower the employees, do they know how to follow the best practices? Do we need to rely on those best practices? These are the question begs to answers. How do we then manage the governance? In a typical scenario, this is what I have seen with organization, where if you could look at the two poles sitting there. On the first pole, if you give the end users access and give them the freedom of use, so you're empowering them do things without having some sort of a process. The end game is where obviously they'll have a good user experience. They will do things in silos to into their department. There'll be a digital transformation, which is a good thing. User adoption is very good, and obviously the productivity within that business unit is high. But obviously on the second pole, you look at what's going to happen with the IT control and security. Obviously, the IT would be concerned about the transit of data. Okay, how that's going to happen. There will be concern of any security problems that comes out of it, and also the ongoing governance management. And that's time consuming. They need to have lots of IT staff sitting there managing the ongoing governance. On the other extreme, if you give the IT the freedom, or IT the top control, obviously the IT will be happy there. You could see the face there. They will have full control of the system. They're going to avoid any security problems. Obviously, they will be controlling. They will be dictating what needs to happen. Obviously, it won't be time consuming because it is controlled and run the way they are running. But on the other hand, the freedom of use by the end users will be affected. Uh, the actual user adoption will be very low. The productivity will be very low. The digital transformation may not happen to a certain extent. People may not use the system. They may go back to their old way of doing, which is manual. And this can have an impact on the actual working style and the way they're doing. So what is the ideal scenario? The ideal scenario is, obviously in this instance, we are recommending Power Software. Power Software gives you that control of feeling, and also it empowers the end users. If you could see that in the poll, the freedom of use, that is the end users, they're happy. And you can see also on the right hand side, the IT control, they're happy as well. And in turn, the users would get the user adoption that they needed. They can work within the team space, and they can also get things done in a way they want. On the other hand, IT department, what they would feel is that they are in control. So the governance in place, and it reduces any security risk, and also it also manages the way that IT wants to manage the team space. So obviously we are proposing a tool called Power Software, but then I also want to introduce how Prometix fit into this model. Prometix is a Powell's partner. So we work with Powell to implement solution within your organization. In this instance, what we have is what we call a 5-day governance pack. In this governance pack, what we'll do is we'll come to your organization, we'll review your current infrastructure, we would propose recommendations on what needs to happen based on your current process, what you've done previously. We would then install and configure Power governance software. So that will go on. Then we'll do a training and handover for you. And then we will assist with you. Anything that you do, we'll hand over with your go live and also handhold you to take the next step. In this 5-day governance pack, we will bring our experienced MS Teams Power consultants. They would then give you hand in developing your own governance model that suits you without losing the user adoption. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. That was some really, really great information you've shared with everyone. I'm now going to pass it on to Pierre. So just a bit of an intro on Pierre. So, Pierre's from Power Software, and he'll just be showing us how to foster, collaborative, teamwork culture during these challenging times. So he's basically going to show us, how to do this and achieve seamless engagement. So making managing a remote team a whole lot easier. I think it's pretty timely to sort of learn these best practices now, especially with our teams, currently working remotely and with everything that's going on. So yeah, I'll let you, Pierre, take it over.
Thank you very much, Chantal, and thanks, Leslie, for this great presentation. So hi, everybody. Very happy to be here today. Just by ways of very quick introduction. So my name is Pierre. I'm based out of Sydney, and I look after the Asia Pacific region for Pair Software, where we've been for the past 4 years. Now, what I'd like to do today is really to give you a little bit of a demonstration on Pair Teams, so our governance application for Microsoft Teams, and focus on a specific use case for this quick demonstration, basically. So again, Pale Teams is our governance application for Microsoft Teams. The idea with this application is that it really comes as a result of seeing so many of our own customers rolling out Teams in the past 2-3 years, and as they were doing so, raising a lot of concerns around governance, around how do I control who is creating teams, how do I control how do they create teams, what sort of teams do they create, and so on and so forth, how do I manage my life cycle, those type of things, which is where we saw a big opportunity to come in and fill a lot of the gaps that are left by Microsoft on this side of things. So what you will see here is Microsoft Teams, obviously the web version of Microsoft Teams, because I'm using a demo environment, but it works exactly the same on the desktop application. Now, as you can see, Pale Teams is a Microsoft Teams application, so it's available directly in the store, you will be able to find it directly from there or in the app source catalog. And we've included a quick deployment guide actually in the handouts in this meeting, if you wanted to download it. The great news with this also is that once you download PL Teams, anybody who is taking part of this webinar will be able to enjoy a 30 days free trial and test the application for free before subscribing to anything. So a good advice would be to download it, install it on a test tenant, and then we'll be able to support you during these 30 days to make sure you can make the most out of your PL Teams trial, basically. Now, once you deploy PL Teams, you will have access to two main interfaces. The first one will be the interface you're seeing right now, which is the end user interface. And then you will also have access to an admin center here. So I will take you through the admin center later in the demonstration, but the admin center is all about governance, while the end user interface is more about adoption. It's more about making it easier for your users to navigate their teams, first of all, but also to find their teams and finally create new teams. So here they will have access to a really nice dashboard with all of their teams, but as you can see, not displayed as the classic teams list. Here the teams are displayed as tiles, making it easier to navigate teams and to visualize teams. They will also be able to organize their teams. So they will have access here to the My Teams tab, which is all the teams they are part of. They can mark their teams as their favorites directly from here and see just their favorite teams. And finally, they can have a view on promoted teams. The promoted teams are a little bit different. These are the teams that the administrators are going to push to the end users. For example, you've got somebody starting in the organization tomorrow. The first day they will open Microsoft Teams, they don't necessarily know what teams they need to join. They will be able to find these teams and to join these teams directly from here. And this can be done based on user profiles. So you will be able to target different teams to different groups of people within the organization. Another thing you can do from here is really search for your teams. So you have a nice little search function directly here, but more importantly, you have access to refiners on the left-hand side, making it a lot easier to find teams rather than to go through the classic list of teams. So here, for example, if I wanted to find only my, let's say, onboarding team, I will be able to use this refiner and find only my onboarding teams directly from here, making it very, very convenient. Now, all of these refiners on the left-hand side are completely configurable and customizable. It is something that is decided by the organization. The last thing you can do from here as an end user, and this is really where we add a lot of value, is to create new teams. Now, the whole point of creating new teams with PL Teams is that we do not want to restrict the creation of teams to end users. No, we want to enable users to create teams, but in a controlled manner. Again, keep in mind the slides that you saw on Leslie's presentation. The idea is to find a nice middle ground for everyone so that IT keeps control on who is creating teams, how teams are created, and so on and so forth, while users are still enabled to create their teams and to use the Microsoft Teams to its full capability. So here, creating a new team with PL Teams, your users will have access to a library of templates that have been pre-configured by the administrator, and they will be able to choose from this gallery of templates to create their teams. And this is where you will be able to create as many templates as you want to, based on the different business processes or different departments or different things you want to streamline through Microsoft Teams. So here for the example, let's imagine that my user profile is part of the HR department. What I want to do as an HR here is to onboard a new employee. So as you know, before the start of the pandemic, most of the onboarding processes were more of in-person processes where you would meet the new employee when he comes in the office the first day and hand over all the onboarding documentation. Here with the whole hybrid work model, a lot of organizations are trying to digitize that process or at least add some digitization to it. So as an HR, I will be able to use a template that has been designed specifically for the employee onboarding process here. And using this template, you will see that I will be able to create a team in just a few clicks very simply. So here, I am not going to be able to create any channel, any tab, any application whatsoever. I will just have to fill in the information that is associated to the template. All the other information are included in the template and will be automatically provisioned when I create my team. So here to start creating my team, I will need to start filling in the different information. So I will start with the tags here. So I've got 2 tags for this team. I've got a department tag. So let's imagine that this new employee will be part of the marketing department and will be based in Australia. Now let's imagine that it is a team for Chantel. So I am going to put Chantel as a team name here. And as you can see, there is a naming policy in the template. So I do not have full control on the final team name. The final team name is here, and it is based on a naming policy. I can add a quick team description here. So onboarding team for Chantel. And I can move on to the next step. And in the next step here, I will choose my privacy, where I actually have no choice here. It is set to private by default in the template. And same here with my owners. I've got 2 team owners by default, and I am prevented from adding more owners. And finally here, I would add my team members, and I've got a minimum of 1 team member. If I do not meet this minimum requirement, I am not able to proceed to the next step. So here I would add Chantel. She's not going to be part of this directory, so I'm just going to add a demo account. And now I can move on to the next step. And that's it. Now I can just review the information I've put in. And if I'm happy with this, I can create my team. So as you can see, in just a few clicks, I can go through the whole process. And here you've got the final step that you can put in a template, which is an approval workflow. That approval workflow will give you 100% control on the whole creation process, because somebody within the organization will have to review these different requests. So here, as an end user, I can go back to my homepage and wait for the approver to review my request. Once it's approved, I will get a notification here telling me that my team has been created. Now, for the sake of the use case here, my user profile is also the approver for this template. So here I can see my pending approvals as an approver. And I can see here the latest request for Chantel's team. So as an approver, I can review this request. And if I'm happy with all the information in the request, I will be able to directly accept the creation of the team from here, or decline it if I'm not. If I want to change the name before creating, I can still do it. Only when I accept will the team be actually created in the live environment. So here I'm just going to accept it, save it, and my team is going to be created at the back. So now I'm going to, so now the job is going to be executed by PL teams. And once the team is created, I will get a notification telling me that my team has been created and that I can open it. Now, the value here for IT is very obvious. The value is that obviously you can control completely how the different teams are created and who are creating these different teams. But there is a big value for the users as well. And that's really what I want to demonstrate here. The first value obviously is for them to have access to this nice end user dashboard where they can visualize their teams, they can find their teams, and they can have access to a nice simplified creation process as well. But the most important part of PL teams for the end users is that they will be able to leverage these templates to create very rich teams very quickly. So here what I've done is I've opened a team, and you can see these 2 different teams here actually, and I've got a couple of others here at the bottom, have all been created with the same onboarding template. So they have all been created with the same template, and as you can see, when I create it, I am provisioning a set of 5 different channels automatically from the template. Now that's great, but what's even better is that if we look at within the different channels, all my different tabs can also be pre-configured at the template level. So here, opening the general channel of my onboarding team, I will be able to access a 30-day tab, which will bring a Microsoft Planner that has been pre-configured at the template level, which means that as an HR, when I provision the new team, and you can see here the notification telling me that my new team has been created. Which means that as an HR, again, I will not have to create a team, add a new tab, and configure my planner manually every single time I onboard a new employee. Here I provision my team and everything is ready for me to work. So my planner with my onboarding steps are pre-configured. I can go in my HR intranet here and I will have access to the onboarding page of my intranet on SharePoint. So this is using PL software intranet solution called PL intranet, but this would work with any SharePoint intranet. And here you will have access to your onboarding documentation directly as part of your intranet. And finally, here you will have a OneNote that is also pre-configured. Now, these are just examples. The idea here is that you are able to pre-configure any Microsoft application at the template level, which ultimately will result in boosting the overall usage of your different Microsoft applications. Because, for example, if within your organization, not many people are using Planner, here they will start to use it a lot more, because when they create their teams, it's already all pre-configured and ready to go out of the box. So that is really the value for the end users, is for them to be able to really streamline their different processes through Microsoft Teams with the use of templates. Now, the way we achieve all of this is through the Admin Center. So let me give you a quick rundown on the Admin Center. And actually, I've opened here the Admin Center, which is, again, all about governance. So the Admin Center is available only to administrators. A basic end user will not have access to the Admin Center. Now, there's a lot of things in the Admin Center here. I would like to focus first on the templates. So in the templates, you will have your gallery of all the different templates you have created for your organization, and you will be able to create as many templates as you want to. And that's usually also where a partner like Prometix will be able to add a lot of value, because they will be able to identify with your different departments what sort of processes do you want to streamline through Teams, and help you configure all these different templates. Now, here I've opened the same template we've used earlier in the demonstration, the employee onboarding template, to show you what's available within a template. When you open a template, you always have access to three main sections. You've got your settings, your governance, and your members. In the settings, the first thing you will see, and this is important because it explains the concept of creating a new template. When you create a new template, you will basically take an existing team in your tenant, and you will clone that team or certain parts of that team, and this will be the base of your template. So the first thing you see here is what team is behind this template, and what parts of this team have we cloned to create this template. So for this template here, we took the master onboarding team and we cloned the channels, the configuration, so the settings of the team, the tabs, and the applications. Now, if you wanted to change this team, change these settings, you can do it anytime. It will not have any retroactive impact on the teams you've already created. Once you do it, all you need to do is synchronize your team settings here, and it will update the template. Once you synchronize, you will get a nice synchronization result here based on what boxes you tick above here. So here we have channels, configuration, tabs, and applications. So I've got here my configuration, and here I've got my channels, my tabs, and my applications. And what's really powerful is that here, so as we've seen earlier, in my general channel, I have got 3 tabs with a Planner, SharePoint, and OneNote as applications. I can come here as an admin and pre-configure my different applications directly here in the template. You can do this with any Microsoft application. So here we've done it with Planner, SharePoint, OneNote, and also with Stream here. But you could do it with any other Microsoft application. For example, Pair Apps, with List, even with the simple PowerPoint tab, you could do it really with your whole stack. If I go further down here, you will be able to associate documents as well at the template level. So any document that you upload here will be provisioned with every single team you create with this template. Because it's a zip file, you can even keep the folder structure within this file. And finally here, you will be able to associate a SharePoint site design to your PAL Teams template. As you all know, when you create new teams with Microsoft Teams, you are creating new SharePoint sites at the back. What happens with Microsoft Teams native is that you will create default team site and you will not have any control on this. Here with PAL Teams, you are able to leverage your SharePoint site designs directly from SharePoint. So here I am able to associate a SharePoint site design to my PAL Teams template so that I don't provision just a blank default team site. I will provision a new SharePoint site based on an existing site design. Then if we move to governance, this is where you put the actual rules in your template. So here you will be able to choose a naming convention for this template. You could decide not to use one. You can use an existing one from all the different naming policies you've built before, or you can even create a new one here from scratch. Just to show you really quickly, it's very simple to create a new naming policy. For example, I could create a new one for onboarding, and you will see I will be able to create it just with this drop-down menu here. So I could start with a string and say onboarding team with a dash, add this. Then I can add a tag value, for example, add my location tag. Here we go. And here I could add, for example, team name, and this is what my user will input. And now maybe I forgot a string here. So I'll add another dash, and I can move this dash around here so that I've got the right naming convention now. So very simple to create your naming policies, and you can create as many as you want to. Here you can have an approval workflow, very simple, but very useful, because again, this will give you a 100% control on the team creation process. So you select your approvers directly from the directory here. Very simple. You can go further and have multi-step approval workflows as well. It is configurable. You can set the privacy at the template level, so you can let your user choose, or you make it private or public by default. You set the right sensitivity label at the template level. Very important one here, you can target the template. So for example, here it is the HR onboarding template. You don't want the whole organization to use this template. So here you will be able to target this team to only your HR group of people within the organization. These profiles here can be built directly from the global administration settings here. And these can be built based on Office 365 properties or from the directory. So it's very simple. Then you can associate tags to this template. So here you will be able to browse through your different tags. You can create new tags from here. You can also configure all your tags directly from here. Once you've set up your tags, you can set the default value. You can make it mandatory during the Teams creation process, or you can even hide it for users. Here, for example, it will always be onboarding, so I hide it for users. You can be creative with the tags as well. You could, for example, have a tag like this one that you make mandatory, and users have to give you a reason when they create their teams. You can set the minimum number of owners and members directly from here, very important from a governance standpoint. And another really important one is here, the ability to set the life cycle of your team. So here you will be able to set an automatic expiry date. And finally, here at the bottom, probably the most important piece is the ability here to associate automations to your Pale Teams templates. So the automations here, same, I built directly from here. And this can be built using Pair Automate, Azure Automations, or Azure Functions. Once you build your automations, you're able to associate it to a template, which means that you will be able to trigger automations when you either request the creation of teams or when you actually create teams. This is basically here to do anything that Pale Teams doesn't do natively. Any custom requirement can virtually be done through one of these automations. What you can do as well is to associate automations to automate the creation of teams from external systems. So here, when you associate an automation to a template, it's really from Pale Teams to something else. If you want to go further, you can use our Pair Automate connector or the API that we provide and automate the creation of teams from external systems. For example, we have customers that have to log in tickets in ServiceNow before they create their teams. You can absolutely trigger an automation directly from ServiceNow so that you only create a ticket in ServiceNow and it automatically provisions a new team in Pale Teams. Same with, for example, we've got a really nice use case with a customer actually with a sales RFP template for their sales department. The way this template was designed was for users, for the sales guys to receive an RFP, go into the CRM, create an opportunity in the CRM, which is automatically linked to Pale Teams. So the moment they create their opportunity, it automatically provisions a new team with the right template, so that next thing they know, they open Microsoft Teams and they've got a team that's ready to go with all their channels, their applications all set up for them to start working on this RFP. So that's where we can go even further. And finally, here in members, you can manage the guest access at the template level, and you can set your default team owners and default team members. You can also prevent the addition of new owners during the team creation process. And finally, the very last thing I wanted to show you here is the ability also to generate reports from Pale Teams. And the reports here will really enable you to manage your existing teams in your tenant, but also to do, for example, audits of your environment to understand what your environment is looking like and where you need to tidy up your tenant, basically. What you can also do with these reports is you can export it into CSV files. You can leverage it in a nice Power BI dashboard, for example, but you can also associate automations, again, two reports. For example, here you have an expired teams report. So this will be based on the expiry date that you put in the template. Once your team has expired, it is just flagged up in this report. Now, what you will be able to do with this report is to associate an automation that will, for example, automatically archive the teams flagged up in this report, or that will automatically send an email to the owners of this team to ask them whether or not we keep this team or we archive it. So that's where the possibilities are endless and where you can really automate the whole management of your teams to make sure that your environment stays really tidy while users are completely enabled to use Microsoft Teams to its maximum capability. And that is pretty much what I wanted to show you here, trying to be conscious of the time. I think I'll hand it over to Chantal and maybe with a little bit of a Q&A session now.
Okay, thanks, Pierre and Leslie. That was really great information that you both have shared with us. So I'm sure it's given, our audience something to really think about on how we can best utilize Teams. So I'm just going to go ahead now and just launch some polls. So if anyone does have any further questions, please go ahead and submit them into the question box. And if something does come to mind after the webinar, you can always get in touch with us and, we'll be glad to assist. So it looks like I do have a few questions coming through that people have been sending. Let's have a look. So I'm going to ask Leslie and Pierre just to help us, answer these questions and give us some insights. So someone has asked, what is the goal of Teams governance?
So I'll answer that first, and Pia can answer the second part. So for me, the team's governance is pretty much giving some sort of a control to the IT so that they don't the teams doesn't grow out of hand. So they have some sort of a tab, and all the classification, the compliance are managed correctly, and they are put in place, and not not taking away the user adoption, user perspective as well. And that's my perspective of Teams governance. I'll probably hand over to Pierre to give his perspective on Powell.
Yeah, no, I think it was very nicely put. To us, the governance, the Teams governance is really about enabling IT to limit the sprawl of teams, the proliferation of teams, and make sure that it stays they stay in control of their environment, doesn't get completely out of hand. We're meeting with a lot of customers that are facing this issue right now, especially with Teams usage having exploded in the last 15 months. So it's something very important to consider, but also very importantly, it's about enabling users. So it's about enabling users to create super advanced teams very easily while everything stays under control for IT.
Okay, and I've got another one here. So how do people go about installing the app?
Yeah, so for installing, I'll take this one. For installing the app, very simple. It's either available in the Teams store directly. So if you go at the bottom right of your Teams application, you've got a little button called Apps. You can search for PL Teams directly from there or from the Microsoft App Source Catalog. Very simple. And we've included a nice little deployment guide, actually, document in the handouts of this webinar. So you'll have all the different steps to downloading it. And again, once you download it, you have a 1 month free trial to try the application.
Okay, great. Thanks, Pierre. So there's one more. So can people enjoy a free trial of this?
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely, anybody downloading the application from this webinar will be able to have a 30 days free trial. And please, if you do opt for that 30 days free trial, feel free to notify either the Prometix team or the Pair Software team so that we can support you during the free trial and make sure you can make the most out of this 30 days with Pair teams.
Great. Thanks, Pierre and Leslie. Thanks for answering some questions that our audience has. So it looks like we have pretty much covered all the questions that we have so far. If there's anything else that someone does want to ask, feel free to get in touch with us. Before we do wrap up, Pierre, Leslie, is there anything else that you guys wanted to add?
I certainly want to add that we as Prometix, we have 13 plus experience, and most of our consultants have probably 15 to 16 years experience, and also recently in Microsoft Teams. We have deployed Microsoft Teams. We work with voice. We've deployed different aspects to team. We've also done custom integration with Teams. And most recently, we've been working with Powell Software as a governance platform within Teams environment, using that and taking it to the next level. I suggest that if you are very keen for next steps, please get in touch with us. We can activate our governance pack, and we can install the Teams for you. In case you just want to do some trials, we are happy to get in touch and just drop a note to us. We can help you with things. Pierre?
Yeah, no, I mean, for myself, again, I couldn't recommend Prometix more. The Prometix team has proven to be an excellent Microsoft partner in general, and not only Pale Software. And they have really good expertise on Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 in general, to be completely honest. But the last thing is probably, we highly recommend to look at Microsoft Teams governance. Again, it's a topic that is very often overlooked, and that can result in a lot of pain in the longer run. And it can also be interesting because we've met a couple of customers also in the recent month that have completely restricted the whole Teams creation process from the beginning. And for a lot of them, it actually comes from a concern that is a result of the old SharePoint days with governance concerns. For these customers too, it's really interesting to use apps like Pale Teams, because the idea is to re-enable users while keeping that control, but without restricting.
Great. So great. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been a really informative session, I'm guessing, for everybody. We really appreciate everyone coming together and being here for this webinar. It looks like we've pretty much covered all the topics we were looking to cover today. If anyone does have any questions that they come to think of after this webinar, we're just a phone call away or an email away. Please do feel free to get in touch. And yeah, please stay safe, especially during these times. And I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day. Thank you and take care.